Welcome, friends, Yali Mothers.
Yeah, Alimadad, everybody. It's really lovely to be with you all on Saturday. All right, thank you. So, as we all know, our topic today is the importance of knowledge in our Tariqah Healing Through Knowledge Part 2. We all know how important intention is, right? And this beautiful hadith always reminds us that whatever act we do, the rightness and wrongness of actions depend on intentions. I'm sure most of us are familiar with the speech Nur Maulana Shakri Muhsini Hazrima made at the Sirat conference. I would encourage all of us, and reminding myself first, that we need to revisit that speech. It's really very empowering. So today my intention is to look at keywords of Nur Maulana Shakri Muhsini Hazra Imam, and we continuously look at how knowledge is healing. But remember, when we take care of our soul and our intellect, then the physical body itself becomes in harmony with nature. Yeah? Knowledge is the water and you are the throne. Of the time, Maula Kareem, help, O King of the time, help. Please, everybody unmute so I can hear you. Who can tell me whose precious words are these?
Sultan Muhammad
Present Imam.
Yes, Sultan Muhammad Shah, that's right. Thank you for partaking. And then when you look at the image, do you see anything other than the water wave? Remember, light waves are entering our eyes and sound waves are entering our ears, right? Did anyone see the bird in there and the wave?
Yes, on the darker side of the wave.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yes, you are right. These precious words are the teachings of our beloved 48th Imam, the world of material intelligence and the world of spiritual enlightenment. What does it mean to be part of building an Islamic civilization? Nur Maulana Shakri Muhsini Hazra Imam reminds us that as your Imam, I have a wish for you, that you live not only in this time, but ahead of your time, ahead of your time. If we do not know our future, if we do not know how technology is unfolding, because it's so rapid, how can we prepare ourselves for the future? So the answer is in Hazrat Imam's guidance itself. He is always preparing us ahead, 25 years, 50 years ahead of our time, right? So then he asks and tells us how we can do that. That's by acquiring knowledge and making sure that knowledge is regularly updated, that we participate in it and perhaps lead in it, that our lives are balanced between din and dunya. But through us learning together, the intention is for us to put into practice what we are learning, right? To know something is not enough. As we looked at it last time, ilmul yaqeen, ainul yaqeen, and hakul yaqeen, right? So we really need to put things into practice. There is a confusion in the minds of some between knowledge and love, or between intellect and love. In our understanding, there is no conflict at all. So nothing is greater than love, because it is love that enables us to forget ourselves and helps us to merge in the divine, or He who is above all else, right? Love does that. Knowledge is the highest thing in the universe. So even though we are saying nothing is greater than love and nothing is higher than knowledge, this also shows us that actually these are two names of one same reality, which is Nur. Yeah? Like, what is love without intelligence, and what is intelligence without love? How can love be beautiful if there's no intellect in it? And how can intellect be beautiful and profound, and how can intellect reach its perfection without love? So again, we see that it's a circle, yeah? From love, intellect is completed, and from intellect, love is completed. All the treasures of this life, all that fame, wealth, and health can bring are nothing besides the happiness which we create and sustain by the love of one human being with another, right? I always mention this that Momin's love for each other, our love for each other is eternal. Isn't that beautiful? And then Nur Maulana Shah Karimul Hussaini Haji Imam tells us that he loves us so much more than we can ever love him. So again, we see how beautiful creation is because the creator, the Nur of the Imam of the time, Allah himself is so beautiful, as the hadith says, he is beautiful. In Allah Jamilun Yuhibbul Jamal, right? Everything resonates and rotates and reverberates around love. So as we prepare for upcoming Imamah Day celebration, how can we really come closer and closer to loving our Imam? Progress, we know, is only and only through knowledge and action, right? And action has to be based on knowledge. We know now that whenever we talk about knowledge, love is already embedded in it, right? Because without love, knowledge cannot bloom, okay, or it cannot fertilize. And look, beautiful saying of Maulali, he reminds us, right, that taqwa or fear of God is the chief of ethics. Remember again, it's not the animal fear, right? We need to transcend our animal fear into the angelic fear. And how do we do that? It's again with knowledge, right? Knowledge and wisdom. Remember the circle on the first slide? There are two worlds, right? Material intelligence and spiritual enlightenment. So every time we talk about knowledge, keep that circle in mind. So here we are talking about which knowledge. It's not just material knowledge, but knowledge of certainty. Condition for knowledge is taqwa. In Molali's words, the, the fear of God. The fear of God, how? Fearing God through knowledge, okay? And that is the chief ethic. So we see again and again that the ethic, our ethic, the Ismaili ethic, and the reason I say Ismaili ethic is because the fundamental ethic, which is belief in the Imam and obedience to him, right? So we see here how we can acquire knowledge, how we can prepare our ground for knowledge, how we can create environments for us so that we can be purified through our ethics and elevate good deeds, elevate knowledge, right? So we all know how beautiful our traditions are of voluntary service, right? And it's not just volunteerism in Jamaat Khana. It's outreach specifically, which is so beautiful, right? We must keep our heart immersed in the divine remembrance because that again is creating this environment for us to progress. Yeah, because when we are immersed in divine remembrance, 1 second actually is very profound because it connects us with the divine. So God's Kursi, which is the universal soul, is the ocean of mercy, and the God's throne arch, which is universal intellect, is the ocean of knowledge. And everything is actually radiating from the ocean of mercy and the ocean of intellect. So having understood that, these beautiful words become so much more vibrant and meaningful, right? We live, move, and have our being in God. Isn't it an amazing principle? It's huge. And I think it's again one of those principles which every time we reflect upon, it just gives us a new dimension or new understanding of what it means that we live, move, and have our being in God. Yeah. Hajj Imam always reminds us that we need to be focusing on knowledge. Here it tells us that we need to become the knowledge Jamaat, and this was here in Vancouver, May 6, 2018. Yeah. So, and he says, not only a Jamaat of faith, but a Jamaat of knowledge. So I say to my spiritual children, keep this message utmost in your minds. Build on it from generation to generation. How can we keep this message of Hazri Imam in our minds? How can we become, how can we create the foundation, how can we lay bricks all the way towards becoming the knowledge Jamaat, right? And he gives us the answer right there. He says that we have to build bridges of knowledge, right? He tells us that we have to invest in knowledge, civil societies. May Mola continually help us to open our hearts, minds, and intellect so we can receive His blessings and we can be part of the building block of the knowledge bridges. Remember, we are talking about healing through knowledge, and these are all means and ways through which we are building, healing ourselves. So many of us are familiar with this very profound hadith of a holy prophet where he says, go to China to seek knowledge. China mentioned in the hadith of a holy prophet refers to knowledge. Okay, we should seek knowledge wherever it be found, including China. China, it's a symbol of knowledge, but the highest knowledge, the pinnacle of perfection. So Imam is encouraging us that we should always have that balance between the material intelligence and spiritual enlightenment, and we should cross all the stages and all the levels until we reach farthest and the most beautiful point, which here is mentioned as China, right? So China can also be the Sangam point or the junction where Khizr comes alive, right? It's the point where all our senses like Ilmul Yaqeen, Ainul Yaqeen, Hakul Yaqeen are all actualized. Okay? So again, Hazrat Imam also reminds us, go to China if you have to. Go to China to inform and learn, right? So again, he's creating this circle, always inform, right? So he has created this time and knowledge. So he tells us and reminds us again and again that in order for us to know ourselves, in order for us to know our Lord and to actualize our potential, it's really, really important for us to progress gradually and the opportunity for time and knowledge. Building knowledge society, how can we do that? As Imam says today, however, I want to address a different aspect of our faith which unites all interpretations of Islam and which I hope will become the central premises upon which we can all build our civil societies of the future. I refer to the ethics of our faith. See here, ethics of our faith. So what are the fundamental ethics of our faith? First and foremost, because we are Ismailis, we have done bayat to the Imam of the time, we've given our allegiance, so then we have to love the Imam of the time, true love and his obedience. Because of that, then we are rewarded with all kinds of knowledge, which then helps us to build knowledge society, helps us to think ahead into the future because we have that knowledge base from the Imam of the time, right? Knowledge is the basis of social change and progress, and it starts with us individually. Are we ready for this challenge? We certainly know a lot of things, but how much of those are we implementing? What actions are we taking today for everybody, for our Jamaat, for our country, for humanity, in order to progress in knowledge diplomacy? A beautiful review. Again, he who knows himself knows his Lord. So my question to all of us is, can we generate light? Can we create light within ourselves? So the intention to share this is, look, these are beautiful jellyfish at the depth of the ocean. If God has given them a special chemical that reacts with oxygen to create this light, do you and I have something within us that we can create light? Yes, of course, we can make light too. How can we make that light? Again, we've seen through our ethics, good deeds elevate knowledge. So all those are means of getting light within us, right? We all are familiar with zikr, giryazari, ibadat, knowledge and action, right? Love for the Imam and knowledge. So all those are ways we create light within ourselves. And look at how beautiful the jellyfish were, right? So what about us as human beings? Because remember, we are the cream of creation. Human beings are made from the image of Surat al-Rahman. It throws out Darwinian theory, right? This reminder of Imam Ahmad al-Bakir's so beautiful prayer, Makila filahi fahuwa fina. وَمَا قِيلَ فِينَا فَهُوَ فِي الْبُلَغَاءِ مِنْ شِيَاطِينَ. This wise Quran and the world of humanity is amazing, amazing book. I would request you all to please read it through the lens of the recognition of the Imam of the time. Why? Because it reminds us, it tells us, it gives us a roadmap of how humanity is within each one of us and how we can actualize it. Yeah? Can someone read for us? Please go ahead. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Spiritual Science, Part 71. In the name of Allah, the Compassionate, the Merciful. The Holy Prophet says, every one of you is a chief or protector, and every one of you is accountable for his subjects on the day of resurrection. This means that God has kept a potential kingdom in the personal world of every human being. Whoever fails to actualize this potential will be accountable for his subjects on the day of resurrection. God is so omnipotent that if all the people of the world were to become kings in their respective worlds, the people of the entire world would be the subjects of every king. For instance, the Holy Prophet said, obey me so that you may be the kings of the earth.
Thank
Amen.
you so much.
Shukran.
Thank you so
Alhamdulillah.
much.
Shukran.
I mean, you read it so beautifully as well. Thank you. Does this remind us of Hajj Imam's beautiful words where he says, he who kills a human being, it is as though he killed the entirety of humanity? Yeah, I'm
Yes,
sure.
even Sultan Muhammad Shah had said this.
Oh, really? Okay, that's wonderful. And Nur Maulana Shah Hussein Hajj Imam also say that these are the beauties of Ismailism and the beauties of Imam's mercy upon all of us. Shukri. So then, how does knowledge make things very special, right? Knowledge is the purpose. It is the highest sublime. It is the purpose. The sublime purpose of knowledge is for us to actualize the whole of humanity in our personal world, right? And remember these 4Ds. So very quickly, how can we inspire? Imam talks about going to the moon, and he talks about technology. He reminds us that we should actually push the boundaries and explore new possibilities, right? How we can use knowledge to shape the world. Revolutionary discovery and diagram of the greatest 21st century, Allama Nasiruddin Nasir Hunzai. This diagram helps us to understand how the whole cosmos is within us, right? And how we can actualize it. The most beautiful point here is the Imam of the time today himself is the luminous lamp, and all of us who try hard and who struggle hard and annihilate him, he forever are transformed into light, just as the cosmic fuel is transformed into light into the sun. I have to stop here. Inshallah, we'll meet in question time. Thank you again.
जी, so
Am I
Yes.
audible? Sorry.
we can see your
Okay.
slide. We can hear you as
So
well.
this is the part two. Last time we have discussed a few of the concepts regarding ilm and ilm in the Smiley Tariqah, which basically is about Tawil, basically about recognition and the levels of recognition, and about Batini ilm. So it's difficult for me to, yeah. So this is about marifat and certainty, and we last time also we have discussed that if we see in Holy Quran, particularly in Surah Baqarah, it says that Alif Lam Mim, Zalikal Kitabu La Raiba Fihi Hudal lil Muttaqin. And Alif Lam Mim is the ayat number 1, and Zalikal Kitabu La Raiba Fihi Hudal lil Muttaqin is second ayat. And we also discussed that this is the book, or that is the book. So Zalika and Haza. So I have mentioned here in my second point, Haza means this and Zalika means that. And this basically is in Arabic a demonstrative noun is appeared in terms of Haza and Zalika. So if uh, terms Zalika means that book, so that means that book has no doubt. Zalikal Kitabu, that book has no doubt. So that means that there is some book where there is no doubt. And doubt means it's free of all the confusion, free of all the doubts. And it means that if there are no doubts, then it means the certainty. So it negates the doubt and it brings the certainty from the veil of tanzil, or from the veil of the superficial knowledge, or the veil of the concept which is mentioned in the Quran. Sometimes it is veiled in some stories, and we have like in few of our lectures we have explained that how Dai and how our teachers have mentioned that those prophetic stories are veiled under some means of certainty. And those certainties are in three levels. One is called, and we all are aware, that ilmul yaqeen, which is the knowledge of certainty, ainul yaqeen, which is the eye of the certainty, and haqqul yaqeen, which is the truth of certainty. And these are the levels of certainty, which means that things can be unveiled, concepts can be unveiled, we can gain ilm, which is batini ilm, we can gain ta'wil of the Quran, so through knowledge as well. And that's why through knowledge we can ascertain that whatever our religion is speaking, Islamic concepts is saying, actually there is no doubt in there. So one is the knowledge, the other is then you see that this knowledge is there. So for example, if you, I can just give an example that if you hear somebody about a ideal teacher, for example, of the university, and then you hear about that teacher and people talks about that teacher, maybe you read the biography of the teacher, history of the teacher, that she or he was like this, he was teaching the concept like this. So you heard a lot about and read a lot about that teacher. So you have a knowledge about that teacher. But once you see yourself, that teacher, how he or she looks like, how or she or he appears, what he or she does in the classroom setting, how prepared her or his lectures are. So that is, you have seen, and you have also you have just seen and talked to that teacher. That could be an example of eye of certainty. But then once you uh, um, take all the attributes of those teacher within you and you experience becoming the ideal teacher like his or her, then definitely that is your experiential teaching or experience, and that could be the truth of certainty. Nowadays in research we have heard that experiential knowledge, experience in research is the highest level of research, because the people who experience actually would be able to tell you. So if I had experienced something and I tell you what I had experienced, that in the words, that could be the knowledge of certainty which I have experienced. So in the same way, ilmul yaqeen is the knowledge of the certainty which our Dai, peers, and those who inhalate in Imam of the time had experienced the spirituality of the Imam of the time, and then hence when they come back to their friends, to the society, they try to write down the books and they try to tell you and give you the knowledge that is the ilmul yaqeen. So at least that ilmul yaqeen is the first level where all doubts can be clarified, and then confusion disappears and we get yaqeen. So yaqeen is certainty. Yaqeen is actually Arabic and the Urdu word where we ask people that believe, and then basically there is no doubt, there is a certainty. And it is acquired where moment reaches the nur of the Imam after witnessing the miracle of the Imam. So not only witnessing by looking at the Imam's miracles, but also experiences the same miracles. And yaqeen is also termed as marifat. Arif comes from marifat. So yaqeen is also synonym of marifat, that Imam is speaking book in which there is certainty, and it is through him that marifat or the certainty could be attained. So if we see the Tawili translation which Allama Sahib has said or mentioned in Imam Shinasi, book Imam Shinasi, that in this Zalikal Kitabu La Raiba Fi Hudal Lil Muttaqin, means it is that book which is the Imam of the time, is the speaking book, Kitab-e Natiq, in which there is certainty, there is no doubt, and through him that marifat could be attained. So it is important that this certainty is gained through the Imam of the time and the knowledge of the Imam of the time. Now we also we need to understand that in one of the hadiths, which is a very famous hadith, and we all know this hadith is Man arafa nafsahu faqat arafa rabbah. And other hadith is arafakum bi nafsihi arafakum bi rabbi. So, and the basic premise for us to come in this world is self-recognition, because we all know the hadith that we came in this world to recognize ourselves and to get marifat. So, and these two hadiths are is making the basis of coming to this world and recognizing ourselves. So these are the two hadiths. One hadith, the first one is saying that he who recognizes himself indeed recognize his Lord or Imam or God. And then the second hadith is arafakum bi nafsi, arafakum bi rabbi, means among you who has a greater recognition of his soul has greater recognition of his Lord. So this is actually stage by stage. The more you recognize or we recognize ourselves, the more we recognize our Lord. So this recognition is not the physical one recognition, but the spiritual recognition, and recognition in terms of getting the knowledge. So, and the last recognition is attaining the experiences of inhalation in God and survival in God. So, one who inhalates in Imam of the time or who inhalates in Allah, then he definitely or she definitely recognize Allah. So the term Khud Shanasi or Khuda Shanasi. Shanasi means recognition. So Khud means ourself. So self-recognition and recognition of God. So these both terms are for recognition or the marifat of the religion. So in the religion, and particularly in Islam, Khud Shanasi and Khuda Shanasi, these two terms basically are the Sufi term, but these two terms are very important for bringing the knowledge forward and gaining the knowledge of the religion. So Khud Shanasi is recognizing yourself, ourself, and Khuda Shanasi is recognizing Imam. So he who recognizes himself recognizes his or her Lord, and it is accepted that own recognition, which is Khud Shanasi, recognizing the self, results in Khuda Shanasi. Now, how? The main question is how we can recognize ourselves. Like I am Rubina, and I recognize that I have two eyes and one nose, and my habits are that. Is this the recognition that this is my external recognition, or there is something else? Even if I recognize, I change a lot all the time. My thinking gets changed, environment in which we live. So this is externally we may know ourselves, and in fact we even externally we may not know ourselves that who we are. But this recognition is the recognition of the spirituality and recognition of intellect. So intellectually, what is your intellectual level? Intellect means dini intellect, religious intellect, and your soul and the intellect, akal and ruh. So, um, so we all are imperfect, and Imam is perfect. So, for the recognition, how can it is possible that imperfection can recognize perfection without knowing the perfection? So, like the recognition of imperfect human alone cannot be possible without the recognition of perfect human. So if you want to learn anything, if you have something in front of you as a maybe as a template or as an example, or maybe something a piece, then only you can say that okay, this is a table or this is a chair, because you have recognized this, because something is there ideally in front of you. So if we in this world we do not have any perfect man, then it will be very difficult for imperfect man to become the perfect without knowing that this is a perfect man. And now, going through the recognition of the perfect man, we will be able to recognize our soul. So that is important component, that even though without knowing Imam of the time, it is not possible for any soul to recognize their soul and recognize their intellect. People may say that we have done a lot of ibadat without knowing the Imam of the time or without recognizing the Imam of the time. It is difficult that the reaching up to Khuda Shanasi or Khud Shanasi is difficult, because if we do not believe and if we do not recognize the Imam of the time, which is perfect human being. So perfect human being is important. Presence of the perfect human, which is the Imam of the time, is important. And in every era, perfect human being is always with the people of the religion, so that they can not only gain knowledge, Batini knowledge from the Imam of the time, but also through that perfect human being, it is possible for all imperfect human being to get into the perfection and recognize themselves. So there are stages, as we say already, that the stages are the knowledge of certainty, eye of certainty, and truth of certainty. These are the stages of getting into the perfection or getting into the pure and the true knowledge of the manifest Imam, which is free from the doubt. And vision, didar, mushahida, observation from the inner eye, not from this physical eye, but from the inner eye, is the eye of the certainty. And final recognition, which is the truth of certainty, is gained or is achieved when eye of the true moment disappears in the Imam's light. Just as the darkness and the blackness of a piece of a coal disappear in the embers of fire. So coal is a black and a dark, but when you put that into the fire, the color of the coal and the coldness of a coal get disappears, and then it becomes the fire. So that is a kind of truth of certainty. Then other stages are in Sufism. If we see that recognition of Allah is through recognition of Prophet, and recognition of Prophet is through recognition of Murshid or Imam, because sometimes they believe in imam, sometimes they do not believe in imam, but they actually say that you have murshid, or you have a teacher who guide you, who gives you the knowledge. So in the same way, Ismailism, we believe that recognition of Allah is through the recognition of Prophet, and Prophet's recognition is through the Imam of the time. So again, there is three stages, that only recognition of Allah is possible if we recognize Imam. So then recognition of Imam gives the recognition of Prophet, and hence gives the recognition of divine attributes. So divinity and prophethood recognition is based on the recognition of the Imam of the time, and it could be done through three stages: knowledge of certainty, eye of certainty, and the truth of certainty. So what we are discussing currently here in this class, or maybe other class, is gaining the knowledge of the certainty. So we are in the first level, that we are gaining the knowledge of certainty from Quran, from different books of Allama Sahib, who has reached up to the level of Marifat, and Dais and Imam's Farman and all other knowledge we are combining and discussing here, so that we are actually gaining the knowledge of certainty, or discussing the certainty. Now, if we see our live existence and the roots of entering soul, because soul, in the human being, soul are entered and then exit. There are many of the openings in our human body where souls can enter and souls can exit. So, for example, if in the when baby is not yet born, its a vegetative soul is the dominant soul, and the material food for that soul is achieved through the navel. So the material food has a soul, and that soul is called the vegetative soul, and that vegetative soul enters into the baby's through navel. So that is the source of the entering the soul, which is the vegetative soul. Hence, the baby is not yet born. Now, once it is born, we come to the world and then start eating. So when we start eating the material food, then the entry point of entering the soul is through mouth, and which is the animal soul. So the things enter from our mouth is basically the animal soul, and the rational soul is always through ears, because we listen, and also through eyes in terms of when we read something or when we think something from mind. So rational soul is basically physical ears, and if we talk about just the spiritual knowledge and the knowledge of certainty, it is through the discourse of knowledge and wisdom. So discourse of knowledge and wisdom is through the ears, and listening to the knowledge, listening to discussions, and also listening to the Imam's Farman. And the important thing is listening to the Ismi Azam. So when Imams give the Ismi Azam, Imams verbally say it, and then we listen through our physical ears. And that ism enters into this physical ear, but then it enters into the inner ear, which is the rational soul, also the part of rational soul. And we then, our eyes are open, and then we slowly and gradually it is we can progress. But then for that, it is also important that spiritual food, which is not only Isme Azam but also the discourse of knowledge and wisdom, that guide us to reach up to the level of the eye of certainty and the level of truth of certainty. Then there is another soul, which is the soul of the Imam of the time. And that soul enters through years of understanding, which we may call basarat. And this is also the spiritual food, discourse of knowledge, thinking, experiencing, and going through actually the spiritual experience of the Imam of the time. So that soul, Holy Spirit or soul is important, which we can gain through Isme Azam. So Isme Azam is the word which Imam of the time gives to us. But then in that wordy Isme Azam, there is a spirit and there is a soul, which is the Imam's soul or a Holy Spirit. And that spirit is basically the word in itself, but we have to make it alive. So that word will alive when we and open the ears of understanding. We open our hosh, we can say goshe hosh, and it's basically basarat, which is from the inner ear. We try to listen to the Imam of the time and its experiences. So these are actually the stages and in our existence, that how the more you eat, for example, we are getting more of animal soul. More you read and more you listen to the discourses of the knowledge, then the rational soul is entering into your body. And if we try to do ibadat and then try to make sure that we think and zikr and fikr, then that means that we are trying to make that holy spirit alive from the Imam of the time. Uh, so with that, there are few conditions of recognition. The first, if we see the triangle, this triangle is not like it's not being drawn correctly. So if the basic is your religious belief, so our religious belief, it is very essential that beliefs are strong, and proper religious environment. If we have proper religious environment during childhood, then definitely beliefs become strong, and that's where we always try our children and our little children particularly to give the knowledge and make a mold of a religious environment so that they can grow and get all those knowledge, uh, and then they can have a shell. So when they grow up and become independent, all the religious environment which we have given in the childhood, that becomes the basic belief, and then upon that basic belief they go and mature that basic beliefs. Then on top of it, it is also very important spiritual friendship. Spiritual friendship means the love, and the love is developed from the belief, love for the Imam of the time, and love for the moment, and love for ilm. So that is important, that without, and last time also we have discussed that love and ishq and zikr is also important, and Yasmin was also highlighted that without that love and ishq, it is not possible to gain these um, the eye of certainty or the truth of certainty or the knowledge of certainty. And the spiritual friendship is definitely is the friendship with Imam of the time, and also friendship with Momin, or friendship who love to give knowledge or who love to discuss knowledge. So if we have friends or a circle where we can exchange our knowledge, then it is also very helpful for us to get the souls enter into our personality through years and through other sources as well. Then love then turned into ardent love, which is ishq, also developed from love of the Imam of the time and looking at the spiritual beauty of the Imam. So how we can look the spiritual beauty? We cannot go all the time and see what Imam is doing, what Imam is doing all day and all night, and we do not have all in the physical world. We have chance to do that, but these spiritual beauty is in the batin. So in the batin, and even sometimes when we read some ilmi point, and then we see that, oh wow, there's some aha moment, and then a spiritual moment where you feel a joy, and then you feel very satisfaction, maybe through in reading the Farman, or maybe clarifying some ilmi points. So that is spiritual beauty. And then see that, wow, and then we say that, oh, what Imam is so, like, Imam is so kind, or Imam is so merciful, or Imam is having giving us so much intellectual knowledge. So that point is actually spiritual beauty, where we read more knowledge and we gain more knowledge. And the other thing is also very important to gain ishq, or love, is we see the beauty and the goodness and the hears about Imam from the truthful person. So who is the truthful person? The person who has seen Imam's beauty in the spirituality. So it is also very important that we hear knowledge from those who have gone through those truthfulity, and gone through the eye of certainty, or the level of certainty through knowledge. Then we can say that, okay, it creates love in our personality. And then the final is, we annihilate ourselves in the Imam of the time, and look the internal beauty, not only sees or do didar, or have vision of the internal beauty, but also experiencing those internal beauty or the spirituality. So definitely, then that spiritual beauty or that ilm is also known as tawil. So I just want to highlight analysis of tawil. Like the word tawil, we always say that tawil and tanzil. Tawil is the batini ilm, hidden ilm, or ilm of certainty is also a tawil. So, and many concept is important. Allegories, which is mentioned in Quran, that has, or symbols that has some batini meanings or a tawili meanings. So the word tawil in Quran appears 17 times, and it stems from awala. Alif, Waw, Lam, Awala means the origin. So Tawils mean to return to the origin, or a return to the meaning, its meaning, because if there is a symbol which is misal, and then which is symbolized, this is mamsul. So originality, which is the Imam of the time, and the spirituality of the Imam of the time, always everything then returns to, or goes through, or directs through the Imam of the time. So that's how we always say that this means Imam, book means Imam, Lohe Mahfuz means Imam. So everything directly goes through the Imam of the time, or spirituality of the Imam. So that Tawil means that any concept or any knowledge that returns in the original sense, which is the Imam of the time, or the Noor of the Imam, that is basically the Tawil, which is the esoteric aspect or Batini aspect. Symbolically, Tawil also means the Batini ilm, and Mu'wil is one who does Tawil. So as Maula Ali has said that, Ana Mu'wilat, Ana Mu'wilatu Tawil, I am the doer of Tawil. And one Quranic ayat, as it mentioned, that Wama ya'lamu tawilahu illallahi warasikhuna fil ilm, means that why it's tawil means the kitab tawil or the Quran tawil. Uh, None knows except God, except Allah, and those who are well grounded in the knowledge. So here the point is about that only Allah knows the Tawi, Prophet, and all those who are Rasikhuna fil ilm. And Rasikhuna fil ilm are the people who are well grounded in the knowledge. So they are prophets, they are imam, and there are different hududs who annihilate in the imam of the time, and who has reached all three stages, knowledge and vision and annihilation. So then they will be able to, or maybe called as a rasikhuna fil ilm, and they can tell us the tawil. Otherwise, other those people may give the symbolic meaning, but we cannot say that they are the doer of the Tawil or they are very much grounded in the knowledge. So Tawil also speaks about the meaning of the allegory or a symbol, and it is mentioned in Dine Islam that there is no doubt that it is the progeny of the Holy Prophet. Like Holy Prophet was Rasikhuna fil Ilm, Imam is Rasikhun fil Ilm, and who know the meaning of allegories and parables of the Quran after him, after Prophet and Imam. In this sense, they are called the custodian of Tawil, those who inhalate in the Imam of the time, and they can explain the symbols, they can explain parables, and they can explain allegories, symbols of Quran. Then they are also called Rasikhuna fil Ilm. So custodian of Tawil, or the another term is Ilme Laduni. Ilme Laduni means given knowledge. Ladun means from Imam. So Imam actually provides ilm to Arif or to the person who inhalates. So Ilme Laduni is given knowledge, knowledge is given or blessed. So it is not attained. Somebody or anyone has no right to get the knowledge unless Imam gives the knowledge. So Imam has made the farman that you will see the light when you will recite, or maybe when you sit in the ibadat, you will get the light. This is not something which you say that, okay, I have right to gain that. So this is the given knowledge. It is given to those who are the blessed one and who are the Arif. And Quranic name of the Tawil is also Ilme Laduni, and it's given to the servant of Allah or servant of God who was living in the conference of Hikmat. So this is the Musa and Khizr. We have had one class that Musa and Khizr, when they were going to get the Tawil, actually Khizr and the Musa said that in the confluence of the Hikmat of the river, you will get the Tawil. So I'm not going to go into that detail, but it reaches when Banda and Imam merge. So when a servant and Imam, servant and king merge at the level where Arif or that person or that Momin can get the Tawil. So the merging is important. And the book and the wisdom are mentioned together in the numerous word of Quran. Now, it is also very important to understand that in Quran, book has also been mentioned, like Al-Kitab, and wisdom is also mentioned. So book means kitab, this book, or maybe Quran, and wisdom is hikmat. So we can say that, like, oh, like for this in one of the Surah Baqarah's ayat, that, oh, the group of Imam, as we have sent among you a messenger from among you who recites to you our verses in spirituality and purifies you and teaching you the book and the wisdom. So in many Quranic ayat, Allah is saying that we have sent the messenger who can read you a book and also teaches you the wisdom. So that means that with the book, wisdom is very, very important. So only book is not suffice. So book means tanzil. So this Quran which we have in front of us, it has all tanzili part of the religion, but then wisdom is the tawili part of the religion which is not there in the Quran. So it for that to get the wisdom, it is important that Imam of the time prepares somebody or gives Arif that knowledge. Through them, we will be able to get that Tawili knowledge. And there is another term which is in Quran, this manifest book and the light, and they both comes together. For example, in Surah Maida, Kajja akum minallahi kitabum wa nurim mubin. So kitab and nur, kitab and light. So the Prophet and the Imam are considered one light, and the Quran as the manifest book. So in Quran, if we read kitab and hikmat, or kitab and light. That means that kitab, with the kitab there is wisdom. That means kitab is if tanzil, then there is wisdom behind that tanzil. And the kitab, which is book, which is tanzil, but there is a light also mentioned, which is the imam of the time. So in whole of the Quran, where there are a lot of Quranic concepts are there, but without that light, without that wisdom, which comes from the imam of the time, it is difficult to understand the Quran. So that is important, that Tanzil of the Quran is manifest, is external. We all see, all people can hear. People, those who are non-Muslim can also read those Tanzil. But in that Tanzil, there is a wisdom, there is a light, there is a Tawi, there is a Batin, there is a knowledge of certainty, which is hidden, which is the esoteric aspect. And that is where Smileism believe in, and we get those Tawi knowledge through Imam of the time, and which this is important in this period. So the period, which is two Islamic cycle, one is the cycle of prophethood, which is the mainly Tanzili period or exoteric period, because exoteric matters are discussed. Shariat was highlighted, but the second, which is this time, is the Tawil of is the Tawili period or esoteric period, and that's why we call Smiley as a esoterically believer or a Batini. We call ourselves as a Batini believer because we believe in Batin and we believe in Tawil, and that is provided by the Imam of the time. And esoteric matters are considered in this cycle where we are currently living, because Tanzil is now fading, like it is fading because there are many questions which this tanzil cannot answer, and therefore there can be doubts in people's mind or in like in the religion also. So this is why the period of Tawi, Tanzil or a prophethood, the Mu'min obey prophet, and in the period of Tawil or Imamat, they obey Imam. And so in verse Surah Araf 157, Allah says that then those who believe in Him and honor Him and help Him and follow the light which is revealed with Him, they are successful. So those who are successful, who follow, who believe in Prophet and who help the Prophet, but then follow the light of the Prophet. And where is the light of the Prophet? So the following the light of the Prophet are the only ones who are successful. It's not just believing in Prophet and honoring the Prophet and helping the Prophet, but following also very important. So following the light of Imamat after following the Prophet, is it is prophesied that after Prophet there could be darkness of negligence, there could be darkness of ignorance, and it is going to spread very fast. So it is very important that light should be followed, and light of the Imam of the time should be followed. So it can only be successful if we follow the light of the Imam of the time. Like Imam Sultan Ahmad Shah has said, that now I will fight with Zulfikar of knowledge and wisdom and not with Zulfikar of steel. So Zulfikar of steel means at the prophethood there were a lot of wars which was exoterically fought, but now it is the war of providing the knowledge and the wisdom. Through that war, we can gain the Mu'min's heart and mind. And since it is now the cycle of Qiyamah, which is the age of Tawil, Imam is engaged in the war of Tawil against ignorance, externally also and internally also, and also inviting his army, the knowledge, and then take part in that war. Like when we discuss ilm and we provide ilm, actually we are the Lashkar, and Lashkar is the army. So we are the army of knowledge. Even if we discuss, even we set together or take and give ilm, so we are among the soldier and the army of the knowledge of the Imam of the time. I think this is my last slide. So ilme Qiyamat and knowledge of the resurrection. So this this time is also called the knowledge qiyamati time, because ilmi qiyamah, and nobody can do tawil, as I said, that without undergoing personal resurrection, as Holy Prophet said that he who dies, indeed resurrections takes place. The verification of tasdeeq, verification means tasdeeq. So how we can verify that this is the true knowledge or this is the knowledge of certainty is from gaining the knowledge from those who annihilate in the Imam of the time, and who is the master of Tawil is the Sahib Tawil, which is the Imam of the time. Like in Quran, Hazrat Yusuf was called verifier or Siddiq. So Siddiq, in the literal term, it means the truthful one. So this is not that those who speak true. It is not the worldly true. There are many people who have never spoken, like who in the life were always truthful. So we're not telling lie, but this is not something the exoteric truthfulness, but this is the truth where they can tell us the true knowledge or qiyamati knowledge. So one who dies or who die before death, after the fanafillah or fanafil imam, they will be able to speak truth, and they can verify the knowledge or a truthful knowledge that yes, this knowledge is true or this knowledge is not true. So that is an important point. And I think like just giving the example that without tawil it is very difficult. Like we have seen that there are, and we there are multiple ayats where it is said that the people in the paradise, there are four streams, and those momin were sitting on the four streams, which are the water, stream of water, stream of milk, stream of wine, and stream of honey. So if we remove the tawil, or if we remove the esoteric meaning or batini meaning, then it does not make any sense that Momin in the paradise were enjoying water and milk and wine and honey fountains. So, what big deal in that? Until we know that what is the Tawili meaning. I'm just giving this example. There are a lot of other examples also. Water means universal intellect, milk means universal soul, wine means natik, and honey means asas. And the meaning behind that, the water, universal soul, universal intellect, that it gives the life, and milk is a universal soul. Milk is always giving the life, and water is the ilm. Sorry, I just want to correct myself that water is basically ilm, which is the coming from the universal intellect. Milk is basically from the universal soul, because soul gives the life, and wine means the tanzil. So if you just see the tanzil, then it gets confused. Like sometimes wine, people thinking may not be very sharp, or maybe there is some um, confusion in the mind. So that is created after drinking a lot of wine. So it's a tawil of a natik is like a wine where there are some confusions. But honey is a tawil of the asas. It is pure and it is giving the shifa. It's um, basically gives the healing of all those confusion, and also very sweet. Like Maulana Rumi said that तन चूसाया बर जमीन व जान पा के आशिकान दर बिहिश्त अदन तजरी तख्तिहल अनहार. आशिकान इलाही के जिस्म साया की तरह जमीन पर है, मगर रूह जन्नत में मस्त है जहां नहरें बहती हैं. और वो नहरें मीन्स द स्ट्रीम्स आर शहद शराब दूध और पानी. So this is just giving you the example that it is important to understand the Tawil and the Batini ilm. Otherwise, having water, milk, wine, and honey streams, this is not making much sense to us. So, in conclusion, we all know that eye of certainty, knowledge of certainty, truth of certainty, and the eye of certainty are the stages to gain the knowledge. And unless we achieve the I, which is our I is disappear into Imam's light. It is not possible for anyone to get or to achieve the Tawili knowledge, and it is achieved through undergoing personal resurrection or dying before death. And Batini ilm or Laduni ilm is given to the chosen servant of Allah who is living in the confluence of Hikmat. So that's all. And our lesson is like Imam Jafar Sadiq has said that teen log hua karte hain, and you become among these three, like alim, mutalim, or behuda, like learned, student, or vile. So be learned one, or the student, or the lover of the people of knowledge, but do not be the fourth one who is the enemy of all these three people. So with that, I think I have taken a lot of time. So thank you very much. Yeah,
Subhanallah, Dr. Saiba and Yasmin Saiba. Friends, if you have questions, please share in the chat room. We have a couple of questions. The first one, without recognition of Imam, recognition of Prophet is not possible. Why one has to recognize Prophet when this is not a time of prophethood? Is recognition of Prophet different from Imam?
recognition of Prophet is important because this is the whole religion. Is not just we have to see that it comes from the Prophet. We see all knowledge from Quran, and the Quran is revealed or it's a mujiza of Prophet. So until and unless we will not recognize the Prophet and the Quran, recognition of Imam is not possible. So it is from the light of the Imam, but we also have to recognize Prophet because in Islam we believe in Allah and the Prophet and the Imam of the time.
The question is, can a Mu'min do the Tawil who reaches to the highest level, or only Imam can do the Tawil?
Imam is basically a Sahib Tawil, but he can assign advanced level Mu'min who annihilate in the Imam of the time, like Bab, Hujjat, and other ranks, though they are not Zahiri ranks now, but the one who annihilates definitely gets the Tawi, but the source is Imam and can do Tawi. Like if we see Allama Sahib's books, there are a lot of Tawili description or discourses is there because he reached up to the level where he can get the Tawil of the Imam of the time after going through all spiritual experiences till certainty of truth of certainty. So one important point, resurrection, die before your material death is important. So without that resurrection or without that maut or death, gaining of the Tawil and Fanayat is not possible. Directly to the Imam of the time.
Thank you, Yasmin Saiba. Thank you, Dr. Saiba.
Thank you, Ya Limadat.
Ya Imadat. Inshallah, we will meet tomorrow.
Thank you, Maulana Madad.
Inshallah.
Thank you,
Ya Ali Madad.
Rajman.
Ya Ali
Kamishan.
Madad, and thank you very much.
Ya Ali Madad.
Ya Ali
Ya Ali
Madad.
Madad, it was excellent. Mola kumet puri kare.
Thank you.